introduced, but yeah, Bob's a retired pediatrician at Arnett, from Arnett Clinic. I know some people know him and he's honored. I know Mr. Riggs here talked about him too, but yeah, Bob's been around quite a lot here in Lafayette and wrote many articles, I know, about pediatricians. Right now he's retired, but he's a visiting professor, bioengineering at Purdue, chemical engineering, and child psychology. But he's not here to talk about pediatrics. He's going to be talking to us about this child sex trafficking. He's on the board of directors for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. I'll give you a little personal background about Bob. My boys were born, we lived out in the Southwest, and we decided to move back here to Indiana. And my pediatrician, I said, well, we need a pediatrician. I'm going to probably in Lafayette, Indiana. So he said, okay, you go see Dr. Bob Hannemann at Arnett Clinic. So he was our boys pediatrician for many years. That's how I kind of run across him. And like he said, Bob was a football doctor pediatrician for the Harrison football team for years. He mentioned him about that. I got the other thing. I've known Bob for about 40-some years, and Eleanor back here, she walked in. I say when we came to Lafayette, I met Bob, became our pediatrician, and we was looking for a church, and we joined up here at Redeemer Lutheran Church, and one day, behold, Bob walks in, and I said, oh, Bob Hannemann. I said, yeah. So I've known Bob that way through church, and also sports. Over the years, me and Bob, every Sunday after church, we kind of sit around and diagnose and go over all the Purdue football and basketball programs. So me and Bob have been pretty good Purdue analysts, sports analysts for several years. But so right now, I do conversation there at church. Bob mentioned something about this sex trafficking for children. And I said, well, that'd be a good subject to come. Would you come to Kiwanis and talk to us about this? So he said, yeah, that he would. And I know it's going to be interesting talk. So right now, I'll turn it over to Bob, and he'll give us some talk on this child trafficking in America.
We're running a little short of time here, so I'm going to shorten my presentation. But before I do that, I already picked up a quarter that I put in your bucket, and now I'm going to look at my wallet here, and I keep dollar bills. And what I'm going to do is take two out. This is for my great-grandsons who will go to church with me on Sunday. The rest of these I'm going to give, I just estimated that there were about that many, I'll give this to your president, of complimentary things said about me. I also want to thank Steve Riggs. Is Steve still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve. Because I was responsible for finding his father to come to Lafayette, and the relationship continued for many years. It was very rewarding to me to have him available to help when I was the only pediatrician at the Arnett Clinic. If I couldn't have talked him into coming here, he was going to go to Terre Haute, I think, Steve.
Yes.
And I went there quickly as I could when I found out I was working a little too hard and staying away from my home too often, and I needed help. I talked Wendell into coming here, and we had a very fruitful relationship. I started with one pediatrician. By the time we were through, we had 13. Wow. And so those dollars, I think, maybe they might add up to 13, but if you need more, these two I'm saving for my great-grandsons. Today I'm going to shorten the presentation just a little bit. I'm going to just try very quickly to introduce you to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. How many of you have heard or know something about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children? See, not very many. So this video I'm going to show you will introduce you to that, and then we'll touch very quickly on one of the major problems that we are trying to help solve at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I say we because I just happen to be on their board of directors. I've been on that board for now 19 years. And someday I'll tell you the long story of how I got on there. But let's put the video on right now so you can get acquainted with the National Center and one of their major roles that they're going to be playing.
The center does great things here, and everybody's so passionate about what they do.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, is a private, non-profit organization created in 1984.
And get a chance to make a difference in somebody's life.
The center acts as the nation's primary resource on the issues of missing and/or sexually exploited children and provides information and resources to law enforcement, parents, children, including child victims, as well as other professionals.
What we do here is unlike any other job.
The resources NCMEC provides to law enforcement are free of charge. NCMEC has formed partnerships with many of the nation's thousands of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies in developing a network to protect children, exchange information, and share expertise.
I believe that these are children that need individuals that are going to fight in trying to get some resolution to their tragedy or to the situation that they have.
This is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. How may I help you?
As cases come into the National Center, they are handled by one of our three divisions, the Exploited Children Division, which deals with issues surrounding the sexual exploitation of children, the Case Analysis Division, which provides analytical support, and the Missing Children Division, which we will explore in this video. The Missing Children Division, or MCD, at the National Center provides technical assistance and support services to aid law enforcement, social services, and families on missing children cases through several congressional authorizations and missing children laws. The Missing Children Division's case management teams are the nucleus in providing law enforcement and families the vital services essential in a missing child case. Each team works directly with law enforcement officers, offering advice, technical assistance, information dissemination, and an array of other services. In addition, the case management teams can provide referrals to families to assist with the emotions experienced when a child is missing. As the National Clearinghouse for Missing Children, MCD can be immediately called into action whenever information about a missing child is entered into NCIC or an Amber Alert is issued.
Once law enforcement calls a case into the call center, it begins a seamless process in which the information is passed through case management support and on to the case management team so that they can expedite resources.
One of these resources includes multilingual poster creation and distribution. The National Center then reaches out to its large network of private sector partners for both targeted or mass circulation.
Our corporate partners aid in the poster distribution of missing children by getting the photo out there, because that's what's important. You want to be able to have that child's photo be seen in any area that the child may possibly be at the time when the child is missing.
Any tips gathered from these posters are immediately forwarded to law enforcement for follow-up. The NCMEC case management teams work to make the transfer of information easy and seamless.
The case management and support group at the National Center is critical to the Marshal Service's success in supporting missing children's cases here at the center.
I'm one of the case managers assigned to the Family Abduction Unit. We work specifically with cases dealing with family abductions, and that entails working on domestic cases within the 50 United States or international cases across the world. What we try to do is provide resources and information to law enforcement, parents, guardians, legal guardians of children that have been abducted either domestically or internationally.
International child abduction cases can be extremely challenging and complicated. What we do here is we are a resource center for both the families and for law enforcement, and we want to make sure that we explain the process, guide law enforcement through the process, put them in contact with the right agencies, and all in intent to verify the child's location overseas and again find the best way to recover the child from a foreign country. law enforcement can call us anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If they have a possible abduction in progress, we work very closely with Customs and Border Protection, the FBI, Interpol, and we also work with the State Department to help law enforcement intercept the potential abductor and prevent an international abduction.
Over time, case management teams will assess, monitor, and reassess the case status to help ensure all available search and recovery methods are being used. By calling 1-800-THE-LOST, law enforcement can get in touch with NCMEC case managers who serve as liaisons to the resources of the National Center. At NCMEC, we assist with endangered runaway, family and non-family abduction, lost, injured, or otherwise missing, and Section 5779 cases.
Even more breaking news tonight and the conclusion of an Amber Alert that had been in effect for much of the day.
The value of the Amber Alert program should not only be measured by the reach it has to the public, but also the reach it has to the abductors themselves. We're finding in more and more cases that the abductors are surrendering those children once they become aware that an Amber Alert has been activated. From the inception of the program in 1996 through August 2012, 584 children have been safely rescued, specifically due to the Amber Alert program.
When law enforcement activates an Amber Alert, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is immediately notified and activates the Amber Alert secondary distribution.
The Amber Alert Secondary Distribution Program is a program where the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children partner with various technologies throughout the country to expand the reach of that Amber Alert utilizing those technologies.
The early hours of a case are the most important when trying to recover a missing child. Team Adam is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's Rapid Response Group, made up of retired law enforcement officers who deploy to the site of missing child cases.
We have a case that's breaking.
Our consultants act as an on-site response and support system and provide investigative and technical assistance to law enforcement.
When missing children case managers receive cases that involve critically missing children, they immediately reach out to Team Adam to deploy to the location of that missing child case. They are boots on the ground and eyes for the National Center.
Adam, I have a quick question.
Currently, Team Adam consists of approximately 85 retired law enforcement officers who have backgrounds in missing and exploited child cases, in command post operation, in violent crime investigation, in multi-jurisdictional investigations, and they're available all across the country to deploy as needed.
Team Adam provides an immediate, on-site, large-scale response during the vital early hours of a case. At the National Center, we never give up on a case until a child is found. In the long term, case management teams continue to communicate with family, guardians, and law enforcement to ensure that both sides have the most current information that may be helpful in solving each case. While Team Adam is available to respond immediately to crimes on site, Project Alert is available to assist in long-term missing children's cases. Project Alert is a core of over 150 retired local, state, and federal law enforcement professionals, including coroners, medical examiners, medico-legal death investigators, and forensic anthropologists, who donate their time and expertise to assist the law enforcement community. These volunteers serve in a variety of functions, including case review, organization and analysis, recommending investigative strategies, biometric collection, assistance with case interviews, and meeting with law enforcement personnel to discuss additional resources.
The average Project Alert volunteer has over 20 years of investigative experience. Project Alert is an added benefit to those case managers and to those law enforcement to continually take a second look, to go out in the field, to actually deploy, to determine that we've done everything we can and continue to do everything we can until the fate of that child is known. We need to make sure that no stone goes unturned, that every resource available has been utilized. We here at the National Center have Team Adam and Project Alert available and at your disposal.
Project Alert is a group of seasoned investigators who offer critical resources and additional manpower and training for long-term missing child cases. A crucial part of the Missing Children Division is the Forensic Services Unit, which provides a comprehensive approach to long-term missing children through distinct and highly specialized areas of forensic support. This unit consists of long-term missing and biometrics teams.
The biometrics team started in November 2011 after we started realizing that there was this need to start matching up all of these unidentified children's cases that we've noticed, as well as to all of our long-term missing child cases. We are trying to track down all the fingerprint cards, all the dental records, dental charting, try to locate where these remains are so that we can get DNA samples and actually help identify who these kids are.
We work closely with NAMUS, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, and it is a database which is open to the public, law enforcement, and medical examiners, and it holds a lot of information on these children missing and unidentified, and NAMUS can be used directly for searching and comparing missing against unidentified.
We do have DNA on
Whatever law enforcement has,
So
we're trying
after a
to...
short of time, I wanted to get to just one thing, or two things that I wanted to talk to you about as a group. First of all, your help was really needed in helping to find any missing or any exploited children. And the reason I'm talking to service clubs particularly is that they are composed of people who have been around for many years like you and I, and who are also good observers for things that may seem to be a little out of line, or things that you might be helpful in helping to solve problems such as missing children. A good portion of the missing children are the results of various kinds of family tragedies or being placed in a placement center of some type that might be such as Carey Home or some of the other agencies within a county or a state. These children frequently will run away from such a place. And when they do that, they are at very high risk for being picked up by what are called children sex traffickers. These are people who take advantage of the disadvantages of these young children, and they recruit them into a sex trafficking system that is very elaborate, and at some other time I'm willing to give you all the details. Suffice it to say that these predators associate with very large attended activities such as Big Ten football games, basketball teams, games, the various types of Super Bowls and automobile races such as the Indianapolis 500. And Indiana particularly is a high-risk state because of several things. The major teams that we have in the sports, but also the Indianapolis 500. These predators are associating with these young children to these venues. We could go into the psychology of this, and we're not going to do this. But this requires the help of not only major organizations such as the National Center, but also individuals to take advantage of their observations, people who have been around a while, to notice anything that is very unusual. You have handouts on the tables, and you can get this information on the web page of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And you can dial in if you want information that is actually printed out on the web page and you don't know how to access it. All you have to do is call the number that was on the screen. It's 1-800-THE-LOST, and you will get an operator that will be able to tie you in directly with information that you could get very quickly about this particular situation. Rotary and the other international types of service clubs are going to become a very important link, particularly internationally, when it comes to the majority of these cases that are occurring not only in our country but across the world. it has become such a major epidemic that Indiana has been particularly looked at as a state that might help, particularly in these issues of runaway children. And we now have, coming out of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a particular strong effort in trying to find these children and to rescue them from these situations. We're sort of a trial state to see if putting the extra effort in from the National Center can actually get it going and provide sort of a stop to an epidemic that is actually facing not only the state of Indiana, not only our country, but an international issue. I'd be happy to talk to the group again at a later time. I think your meetings are probably over at 1.
But if anybody had a question.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to just take any questions you have now about that particular situation, but also about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Someone pointed out to me one time about why do you want to talk to elderly people or people who are older about issues of children? And my stock answer that was given to me at one time, we are old now, but we all were once children. And if we imagine the terrors of those children as they go through these experiences, I think we would all agree that this is at least one of the many issues that children face that they really shouldn't have to face. So I'll take any questions that you have at this time and try to answer them. Yes?
I'm just pleased to hear that, because sometimes we'll be sitting at home watching TV and there's an Amber Alert that's like Northern Indiana and we think, does this have validity? Why am I getting this? But hearing that just the fact that it goes out that far helps the effort is pretty exciting, so I'm pleased.
Okay, well, this has become a major epidemic. It's been kept under wraps for many reasons over the years, but it's something that is certainly a major problem, both locally and nationally and internationally. Yes, yes.
I learned recently that the United States has the unfortunate top 20 list of rates of rape among countries. And is this part and parcel with this? Is a lot of it through these younger?
Well, this is unfortunately something that's going on worldwide. We're not the only place that is suffering from this kind of thing. So it's something where it has to be something. It's as bad or worse than the opioid problem that we're having with drugs. This is something that is much further reaching when you look at the development of children, the safety of children, and the family situations that lead to some of these things or that are the result of some of these things. Yeah. Any other specific questions? Yes.
This is a way out thing that I'm just going to throw out. But with new technology and all this going on, there's now putting a chip in somebody's finger, to identify them. Is there any way that you can register a child and put some kind of a chip in them to let them know the location as to where they are?
Yeah, I'm sure there probably would be. We can do it with dogs and cats, that you can put a chip in.
Whales and...
Yeah, well, someday maybe we'll have that, but we don't. I mean, I think it could be done, but to get this now in children and already living, or maybe it'll be done at birth sometime, those are things that may be able to be done in the future. But right now we have to rescue those children that currently are lost and are being picked up by the predators. Yes?
Is Amber Alert a national program or by state?
Yeah, it's a national program. It's tied in through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. As they pointed out, once an Amber Alert is declared, it then is passed around because these predators move very rapidly from place to place. And if you can get a description of the vehicle that they're in, and a description of the child, and a description of the predator, if you know what it is, who he or she is, then that will help spread it as the person travels from state to state and county to county and that sort of thing. And that has proved to be very effective. So it is tied in completely through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yes.
Is there an umbrella organization that you're affiliated with, and how do you get funding?
This is funded nationally and through the various organizations. You saw their logos on the screen. There are a lot of major companies across the country and internationally that help fund this effort. It's very expensive, and because of the good work they did at the Katrina hurricane, if you remember that maybe 10 years ago, down in the southern part of the country, around New Orleans particularly, there were something like 4,000 displaced children. These do not mean that they were dead. Some of them, there were a very small number that had been killed by the hurricane itself. But there were 4,000 that were displaced because the parents and caregivers were willing to give their children to anybody who could pick them up out of the floodwaters, or even from a helicopter just by holding a child up. The National Center sent in a large volunteer team of investigators, mainly police officers who were used to questioning children and adults and that sort of thing over the years. They were able to relocate over 4,000 of those children within a relatively short period of time, a month or two. And some of them have been shipped, to 2 or 3 different states around the surrounding area. And they were able to relocate them through the system that they have, plus all that volunteer work. Many of these volunteers are retired police officers.
Maybe one more?
Yeah.
Chuck, do you want to do one more?
Dr.
Yes,
Hannemann,
sir.
thank you very much for your work in this area. And the question is that these predators they hang around airports when people arriving, young children arriving, and other points like that, do they?
Actually, they're very clever, and they're very intrepidorish, if you want to use that term. They'll go anywhere where they think there are children that might just be wandering, and there are warning signs about children that are in the handouts I gave you. Children that might be really subject to this kind of thing, where they're either a runaway or they are running away from an undesirable situation within a home, whatever it might be. And these predators are very skillful at recognizing who these children might be. So they're really everywhere. And as a person our age, we are very observant, more observant than many people think. We might be very good investigators, or observers, I should say. If something does not look right, you need to report it to someone, and probably the nearest police officer or security guard or someone within that setting, an airport or around a major sports effort like the Super Bowl or a Colts game or something like that. If you see anybody that looks suspicious or has particularly in tow a young teenage girl, these are the kind of things that you would look for. If it doesn't look right to you, it probably is not. So, any other questions? Well, I'll be happy to come back at another time to go into a little more detail about the specifics of these kinds of cases. So thank you.